Good afternoon, and welcome to another sagacious episode of Diatribes from the voice of Doom. Now here's your sanctimonious and sacrosanct host, voice of Doom. Hello. Alright, I'm going to continue my series of helping by giving you more information about how life works from a Buddhist standpoint. But I will say, parenthetically, that I completed 64 years on this planet yesterday, April 26th, and I'm now beginning my 65th year. So I consider that to be kind of a milestone in a way. I'm not 65 yet, per se. But since it's my 65th year, I'm going to try to improve for real. And I say that all the time, but sooner or later you have to really use some self-control, use some willpower, even though it's against your will. Never been good at that. If I have a feeling I can get something for nothing, I'm going to try. And if I fail, I will keep trying until I'm in the pit. I'm talking about gambling. And I'm going to try to curtail that, because if I can curtail that a bit, at least, not do it all the time, then I will curtail my alcohol consumption, because I tend to drink when I gamble. And I don't drink much otherwise. And it will solve a lot of other problems, financially and physically. So, make that my determination now. A determination in Buddhism is called E29, basically. And it has many meanings, but I have the E29, I have the willpower. I want the willpower to be able to improve and get rid of my more negative attributes. And you improve by daily practice, and that's why I like doing diatribes, because in order for me to do a diatribe, I pray first, and that is my daily practice. And without the impetus to have my daily practice, I would not be able to do very good diatribes. So everything is connected. Now, let's go on with this 10 worlds business. Because as I said, E29 means determination. It also means any given point in your life, any given point in time. Now, there's a concept propounded by Tiantai of China, 6th century sage, who learned about Buddhism and then decided to try to systemize it a bit. Did a little more deep diving. And I'll tell you about the history of how Buddhism went from India to Japan and then all across the world after that later. But Tiantai expounded this theory that there are 3,000 possibilities in every moment of your life, of any entity's existence, even a rock. Now, you have to think about it real abstract, to think about rocks having different conditions of life or existence, because they tend to just sit there. But maybe an avalanche comes along and then it goes down a cliff and then it breaks up and then some organisms emerge from that and it has a transformation. So don't want to get into the weeds too much right now, because I got to explain this mutual thing. The 10 worlds, which I mentioned before: hell, hunger, animality, anger, humanity, heaven, learning, realization, bodhisattva, Buddhahood, bottom to top. Those are 10 worlds, and in the old days when they were superstitious and thought that there were different realms here and there and everywhere. Buddhist thinkers thought that each world had its own area where they resided, so you would always be in the same world. Not true. The mutual possession of the 10 worlds, 10 times 10, that's 100. They said there were 3,000 possibilities, but let's just talk about the 100. 10 times 10, every world possesses every other world. Hell possesses all the other 9 worlds. Buddhahood possesses all the other 9 worlds. So from moment to moment we can go into various worlds, or even combinations of the two. I just won a jackpot. I'm so happy. I'm in rapture. I'm in heaven. Get a phone call. Your parents have been in a horrible accident. You suddenly go straight to what you would call hell. Because hell isn't necessarily a place for people to pay penance for their sins, but is a state of being. And when you're in despair, or you're suffering, or you're very sad, what else could you call it? You can't call it hunger, you can't call it animality. You have to call it hell. It's a low state, and you don't want to be in it. You don't want to be in the 3 evil paths. But there's a mutual inclusiveness of all the worlds. That's not that hard to understand. And as we get into the other factors that play into this 3,000 possibilities in one life moment, it gets more complicated. But it's very, very interesting. And if you can even begin to grasp it, which I'm not even close. I've been studying Buddhism for 35 plus years, and I've still got a long way to go. I got to read everything all over again and try to understand it. But let me tell you something about this mutual inclusiveness before I talk about some news items. Observing a person's life for a certain period, one can see his basic tendency or a stronger inclination toward one or more of the 10 states or worlds. A compassionate man's life is centered upon the condition of bodhisattva. Yet even a man whose basic life tendency is bodhisattva may manifest hunger, heaven, or some other condition at any moment. Thus, the condition of bodhisattva, or any other, contains the potential to experience all the other conditions of life. The term human revolution, which I talked about, if you look it up in my search bar, look up human revolution, you'll see a few diatribes about that. The term human revolution indicates the gradual elevation in the life condition which forms one's basic tendency, and the establishment of Buddhahood as the basis of his life. When, as a consequence of such elevation, one's life activities, volition, center around the highest possible condition, that of Buddhahood, then he has attained enlightenment. You see, it's very simple. How do you gain enlightenment? Go to a mountaintop and talk to a sage. No. Enlightenment is striving to be the best person you can be at every moment in time. The 3,000 possibilities in any given moment in your life strives toward more and more good until you've reached that pinnacle. You've reached a lifetime where you're a Buddha permanently. Now that could take trillions of eons, so we have plenty of time to work on it. But I wanted to say more about this E29 Sanzen and how it is undeniable, and it's in everyone's life. Every entity, even a plant, goes through different stages, conditions of life depending on the environment and its own state of being. It gets confusing. I will go more into that later. Let's go into the news a bit, because the E29, the determination of many of our so-called leaders, seems to be in the world of animality, where they kowtow to the stronger and prey upon the weaker. And we see manifestations of all that throughout the news every single day. Something caught my eye. Don't want to go too much into it, because according to Tiantai and according to Nichiren, who expounded that Buddhahood is a state which anyone can manifest at any time. It's not something that you attain through long periods of painful practices. It's something that you could be at any given moment. Suddenly, for a few minutes or a few seconds, you're a Buddha. So the Buddha nature is inherent in everyone's existence, including rocks, plants, and dirt. But Terry Springer died, and I want to say that he has the potential to have the Buddha nature, so I don't want to disparage him. But I didn't cry crocodile tears. I think he can move on, maybe do better next lifetime. Because Springer was a TV host who basically pioneered trashy, crappy, so-called talk shows. They started off pretty innocuous with Sally Jesse Raphael, or whatever his name was, the guy with the glasses. He had decent talk shows that talked about current events and this and that, but then it degenerated. And Springer started a show that's basically the precursor to everything we're seeing now. The division, the hatred, the ridicule, the violence. The show consisted of bringing a guest on who has a secret to tell their loved one or something, and then it proceeds into a big brawl, which is all staged, just like old-time wrestling. It's all staged, and I realized it was staged when I saw an episode, because I used to watch it. You know, there's nothing else on at 2 o'clock p.m. during the day. You watch Springer, and it's like, man comes on and says, "Oh, I've been married and I have 3 kids, but I'm going to tell my wife that I'm leaving her for someone else," on live television. So I'm like, okay, this should be interesting. Woman comes on, "I met someone else, and I'm leaving you. I just wanted to let you know." And the woman sits there and goes, "You're telling me this now? Oh, what does that mean? You're leaving me? How could you do that?" So obvious that they were amateur actors. You could just tell by the way they were talking. Because if I had 3 kids with my wife and brought her on live TV to tell her that I found someone else and I was leaving the family, there would be no one alive left in that studio. She would make the Tasmanian devil look like the bluebird of happiness. She would rip the place apart, starting with me. You brought me on live TV to tell me this BS that you're leaving with a family, and you're just going to take off with somebody else? Oh my God. The blood would be everywhere. So I knew he was a fake at that point, and then I watched it with that enlightened attitude that it's all fake. I want to tell my boyfriend that I'm really a man. And back then, there was no compassion for any transgender person. They were people that were cross-dressers that, you know, deceived others. And then they got into big knockdown, drag-out fights, literally. And then, what's his name, the big old bald guy would come out, and Steve Wilcox or Wilkos would come out and break up the fight. It's all just staged nonsense. So Springer, goodbye. Rest in peace. Move on to your next lifetime. And I'm almost done with my time, so I'll just mention about this latest brouhaha. I guess there's bio labs in Sudan and there's a civil war. So we'll leave that kind of hanging, little cliffhanger with what happens with that. But you can see all the potentials, the 3,000 possibilities in any moment of life. You can release a bio weapon at any time. At any moment in life, this whole planet could just blow up. So you got to think about those kind of things, and kind of leaving it hanging, but I'll leave it there, and we'll talk more later because it gets a little bit more interesting. This Ichinen Sanzen thing, 3,000 possibilities in a single moment. So I'll leave it there, and enjoy the day, and thanks.